Good
Hello.
morning. I guess it's good
Morning,
afternoon
Grace.
for you.
Yep. Straight to you from the East Coast, straight from Twitter headquarters. Actually, I don't know if Twitter
Wow.
headquarters is here, but it's
Twitter
there.
headquarters is here
Okay,
in
well, there's a
SF.
Twitter office here. Straight from the Twitter office. Um, I
The
am
two
Jack.
hubs.
Grace,
I'm
it's good to see
Grace.
you.
Yes.
Today, we're talking about a lot of stuff. This is What's Going On, a weekly live show that discusses news that affects you, the creator. We are your hosts, Grace and Jack, of course. Hello in the chat. Everyone put a hello in the chat. And
Tell us
today
where
we're
you're
going to be
coming
talking.
in from.
Yeah, tell us where you're coming in from. That's a good one, Grace. I want to know. Let's see. Today, we're talking all about Elon Musk buying Twitter, all over the news. I'm sure you guys have heard about this. I'm sure you guys have thoughts. We probably have some thoughts too. We're going to tell you guys what went down, what we think is going to happen, what might change, what this could mean for you as a creator. Disclaimer, we obviously aren't experts on this. No one is right now because it literally just happened and no one knows what the heck's going on. So we're just hoping to chat with you guys a little bit and discuss with you guys. So let's get into it. Grace, what's going on?
Oh man, it's been a week. I feel like working in the creator space this week has been interesting to just see how many different perspectives there are. Because there's obviously the news of Elon buying Twitter, but then there's so many different threads of repercussions from that where it's like, how does it feel to be a creator on Twitter? How does it feel to be someone who's working at Twitter, which not us,
Right.
but just thinking about those people and keeping them in my thoughts and prayers, I guess. And then the leadership of Twitter and how this affects the general world. It's just, there's a lot of stuff I feel like that's needs to be unpacked, which we're probably going to do today.
Yeah, we're going to do our best. Definitely, this is insane. Also, yeah, shout out New York, represent in the house. Shout out
Valley.
Arizona.
Nice.
Glad you like Kapwing, California. Anyway, so yeah, let's dive right in. There's a lot going on. I think Twitter is such an important space. It's one of the biggest social networks, of course, and I feel like it's one of the social networks where people do the most person-to-person conversation, as opposed to things like Instagram where you post what you want and there are comments, but it's not really conversation happening. YouTube, it's generally one-sided, someone speaking, the other person's listening. Twitter
True.
is really our sort of forum, our live forum, I feel like, for all things, everything. So really interested to dive into this today. This is huge news. So Grace, do you remember the moment? Where were you when you heard Elon was buying Twitter?
I feel like I was probably at work at the office.
Yeah.
I think it might have been you who told me. You're like, oh, this just happened. Yeah. And I was I read it. It was a message and I read it and I was like, oh, interesting. And then I went about my day and then I came back to it because someone else mentioned it. I was like, wait, what does this mean? For some reason, I just thought it was him, I guess because there was discussion of him being on the board as opposed to him buying Twitter. And so I thought it was just oh, he's confirmed to be on the board or something. I think the weight of it didn't sink in until I reread it and then was seeing everyone on Twitter reacting to it and being like, oh, wait, he's taking a public company private. I didn't even realize that was a thing that was a possibility before. But actually, there have been a few companies in the past that have done that, like Burger King, Dell Computers, some random ones. But I think it was because it's not a thing I usually hear about. I was confused.
Yeah.
What about you?
What's interesting is that when you say a public company, like I was sort of saying, even though Burger King and Dell Computers are public, this is probably the most public company, right? And it's the one that probably affects us the most as the user. So yeah, I think why don't we dive in case anyone doesn't know what happened, how this happened. I'm just going to do a quick overview of sort of the chronological events that happened. So what's going on with Elon and buying Twitter? So here's the timeline of events. This is what happened first. he put out this poll about if Twitter adheres to the free speech principle that we value in America, and sort of ominously was like, the consequences of this poll will be important. Please vote carefully. And I think I didn't realize how important this poll would be. I think it's clear. I don't know if you remember this, Grace, but when he tweeted out asking whether or not he should sell Tesla stock and put a poll, and whichever one won, he did, and people said yes, and he did end up selling it. So clearly he takes like polls really seriously.
Yeah. I feel like it's also like, sometimes I feel like he tweets so many different things though, that sometimes it's like the boy who cried wolf, like who knows what he's going to do. He's just such a wild card that it's like, oh yeah, you take this seriously. It's like, vote carefully. Haha. But yeah. I guess he was legit.
Yeah. I totally know what you mean. He is sort of, a loose cannon, I think. I think it's why a lot of people like him. Then, of course, he tweeted, "Do you want an edit button?" And yeah, okay, in the chat, everyone, let me know, do you want an edit button on Twitter? I feel like I'm in the minority. I actually don't think we should have an edit button on Twitter. I feel like that could be risky. You could make a tweet and then change it after people have already retweeted it. I think it's a little risky, but they could probably implement something to make that work. But I'm team no edit.
I think when at first, like, it seems kind of obvious, like, oh yeah, of course, like as a person using Twitter, it'd be nice to like be able to edit a mistake that you made in the past. But I think upon hearing like other perspectives of like how that's problematic, because if someone tweets something and people like respond to that tweet, and then the person goes back and edits it later, then the comments just don't make sense. And you can like switch around your words and stuff. So I can see how it's problematic. I think I still want an edit button, but with like context of like, maybe you can only edit for like a minute after you post it or something. I think, I think what they've been saying, they're actually implementing an edit button, right? Yeah. So I think what they've been saying is like, they're planning to have it be an hour after you post is the limit for editing, which does feel a little long, but
seems like a lot.
Anyway,
so then of course we found out that Elon became Twitter's largest shareholder. Pretty crazy. And then they offered him a spot on the board, and we were all like, what? That's crazy. And then very quickly after, it was found that he denied the spot on the board, and I was very confused, but now it all makes sense. Because he put in a bid for Twitter for $44 billion with a B.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That is a lot of money. I feel like I can't even like comprehend that much money in my brain.
Yeah, I'll never have it. And that's okay. So now we are grappling with the question of what he plans to do with Twitter. I think there are some good things, number one, I think he's been tweeting a lot. So if you want to see any of these, they're all on his Twitter. Like I said, the edit button I think could be interesting. Encrypting Twitter DMs, another really interesting part of like cybersecurity. He also has a focus on defeating bots and not letting them on the platform. And also making the algorithm open source, which is like really interesting to me. I don't know how that would play out. But he seems to think it's a good idea. I don't know.
I feel like the open source algorithm is probably the most interesting thing that he's talked about. And like, to be fair, he's literally listed like 3 things. It's like not a huge list of stuff that he's like really concretely said, but I think that is like, because these algorithms on social media platforms have so much impact in like what we see and like just what we think of the world. I think that one could be an interesting, like, you think about TikTok, it's like, how does their algorithm work? Does anyone know? Like, do people at TikTok even know? Like, it's such a huge, like,
I don't think so.
Right. And so I think that would be that would be probably really cool to see. But then that leads to like other things, right? Like, I don't know, more chances for manipulation or like hacking. I think there's just like a lot of pros and cons to all of these things.
Right. Yeah, Dr. Robot Nick. I'm also confused about the edit button. I'm sure we'll find out. And another big thing, of course, that he wants to change is this freedom of speech thing. He's talking about it all the time, saying, you know, is Twitter a place for freedom of speech? Is your freedom of speech being stifled on Twitter? You know, things like that.
Yeah.
I'm unsure about what he's gonna do to complete his vision in making freedom of speech a focus of Twitter. Like, to me, that means, are we going to have much less moderation? And of course, there's tons of risks with that in terms of harassment, disinformation, things like that. Because I don't know. What do you think about that?
I just think it's so easy to say that in theory. It's like, I don't know. I think this is one of the things that America as a country, the US, kind of struggles with. Is like, a lot of people are like, yeah, freedom, we want freedom. But it's like, what does that actually mean? And I think that is like the whole society really depends on like that, the interpretation of that phrase.
Right.
So
I guess for the Supreme Court.
Yeah, that's true. I think overall it makes me wary because he's waving this flag of like, oh, free speech, like I'm doing this in the name of free speech. But the whole idea of taking a public company private partly is like, you're not going to be held as accountable by the law and by like regulators, like as a company. And so it just feels like kind of ironic in a way. You're like you're saying this, but the actions feel like they might be different. And like, yeah, it's free speech, but it's your free speech, you know, like it is ultimately still like he is one person.
Right.
And that being said, like that doesn't mean he's like, obviously he's not going to run Twitter by himself. Like there's going to be other people working there. But I think I'm overall just wary, and like it really comes down to what he's going to actually do.
Yeah. Can you hear me? My camera is having some issues. I'm going to change to my MacBook camera.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, great. Switching to the MacBook. We go with the flow. I think Elon hacked into our show right now and paused my camera. But you know what? That's his right.
Hey, Elon.
Hey, Elon. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. I think, I mean, these are just things we struggle with as a country in general, and it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I think the critics that fear what's going on are that he sort of is, he's just a troll, I think. Like, he trolls everyone. You can see from these tweets, the far left hates everyone, themselves included. I'm no fan of the far right either. Less hate and more love. But then he says those things and he posts like memes that are like, I think pretty sometimes insensitive. But then, you know, and then he also posted this meme of sort of, I don't know, just making fun of the political spectrum, mostly making fun of, you know, people on the left, saying that they're getting more and more left, and the more conservative people are staying just as conservative as they ever have been. When in reality, I don't know if that's true. I think it's true that probably both are getting more separate, right? Leftists are getting more left, and people on the right are getting more right. I think that's just what's happening. But so I think people are fearing that he's sort of, I don't know, politically moving towards another spectrum or part of the spectrum that they don't like, of course.
I think the other thing that worries me and kind of ties into this, like he's like has so many conflicts of interest. I mean, maybe you could say this about everyone, that everyone is involved in a lot of, like, people at that level, whether they're billionaires or like world leaders, they have so many different like things going on, but he is like running other companies, and I think that could be like potentially something that comes in, like when you're on a social media speech platform, but you have these other like interests in certain companies. I don't know if that's always a good combo.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like he's not specializing in one thing. Maybe he's like, we don't know if he knows how to run a social media company. I guess who does know? I don't know, but
yeah,
it's interesting.
right.
My question about what this means for us, here's sort of what I am taking away. So I'm thinking in terms of disinformation and harassment, this could be increased if moderation is lessened. Of course, we've seen sort of platforms that have like a laissez-faire attitude with moderation, and oftentimes they become, really hateful and just all around not like fun places to be. But I also wonder if it's possible that it reduces disinformation and harassment if all these bots are stopped. I think a lot of times bots are pushing a certain narrative, and I wonder if those stopped, if we'd be getting less of this targeted sort of disinformation and harassment.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I also have to wonder about crypto, of course. Like Dogecoin, he's the Dogecoin king. I wonder if Dogecoin will play a bigger part, if they will adopt that as a currency. I wonder if they'll adopt in more Web3 things like putting on an NFT marketplace. Twitter's already integrated NFTs somewhat. And I wonder if they'll keep doing that because Elon is, he's kind of a crypto head, I feel like. And he's a large player in the space.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also like Jack Dorsey was the CEO. He's not the CEO currently, but they seem to have like a pretty good relationship where Jack was like tweeting about how he supports this move and everything. And Jack also is very into crypto. So
yeah,
I think that's like
Bitcoin
another open
man.
question is like, yeah, like how involved will Elon actually be in running Twitter? He could be more on the, like Jeff Bezos isn't super involved in the day-to-day of Washington Post. Like it could be something like that, or it could be like more hands-on. I think that's a huge open question in addition to like who's actually the CEO. Like
it's hard for me to imagine that Elon isn't invested. Like his Twitter account already is so active.
Yeah.
I think he's going to make it known
That's
what
true.
he wants.
Right. But then it's like, who's running the actual company? Who's the CEO? Like I think Elon can appoint a new person. Would it be Jack again? Like that's still up in the air. So yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to see. Another thing I've been wondering as well is like, I feel like, when you think of like YouTube and Instagram and like other social media platforms, like you can make a lot more money usually on these. Even Facebook, there are like Facebook influencers that make a lot of money. TikTokers, of course, can make a lot of money. But I feel like Twitter creators don't really have revenue streams coming from Twitter.
Yeah.
There's not like, tons of ads going right now. And the subscription model also, I don't think pays out individual creators. It just pays out Twitter with Twitter Blue.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they can figure out a monetization plan that will maybe bring in more revenue for creators. That would be my hope, because right now I feel like Twitter is such an awesome space for creators for conversation, but not a great place for actually turning that conversation into cash.
Yeah, that's true. And I know that's something they've been thinking a lot about. It feels like in the past year, what they're trying to introduce like the Twitter subscriptions. I think they added like features where you can subscribe to the person's like newsletter or like different places on Twitter for that single like creator. I think also like something we just found out like right before we went live with this was that Twitter's actually they're pausing all their product updates. They're not doing any product updates unless it's like mission critical. And I think that is an interesting move because I think it makes sense. Like everything kind of reflects back on Elon as the stand-in owner for now. But I don't know. That definitely doesn't spark trust in like the team, the Twitter like employees themselves. And I feel like there could be a lot going on. Like they're losing valuable time. You know, this is a huge period of transition, and like where they need to show like what kind of moves they're going to be making. And if they're just like literally sitting on their hands or like on pause, that feels kind of strange. But I don't know. There's a lot going on too.
Right. And that also seems like antithetical to Elon, all of Elon's plans and tweets. Like he seems to have like kind of a lot that he's targeting, but then if they're not allowed to actually change any of it, like, then what is all this for anyway? Is it just like a publicity stunt? I don't know. But and interestingly, this deal, even though it's been started to be approved, it could fall through. Like deals like this can take like months to like a year even to complete. And a part of me wonders, like, I feel like he is such a loose cannon that like maybe he'll get his eye on something else and just sort of want to move into another direction with something else and buy something else instead. I mean, granted, he has hundreds of billions of dollars, so he could probably buy a lot of things, but I don't know. I wonder if this will happen in the end.
Yeah. I like someone, Trent Winrar in the comments. We should tell him to reinstate Vine to have a competitor to TikTok.
Yes.
I would love that. You guys should all tweet at him and be like, please reinstate Vine, revamp Vine. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. I feel like he'd actually like listen to that.
And I feel like that would be something he's good at, like more like he's like I feel like, I mean, I know he's a, smart man and he's successful, but I think first and foremost, he's like a memer. Like he trolls, and I feel like that's perfect for Vine.
What's his title at Tesla? It's like Techno King or something.
I don't know.
Because oh my gosh, please, everyone in the comments, go tweet at him to recreate Vine or like revamp it. Wow.
And why doesn't he take over TikTok? That'd be fun. I agree, Fearless Warrior. I think an edit button on Twitter could be very dangerous. It could really change a lot of things. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And ultimately, like, another possibility is that he could change a lot of things, like an edit button. He could change a lot of other things. Maybe it just fails. And I think no matter how much we think that these social medias and these platforms are like integral to our lives, they can fade away. Like we've seen it happen with Tumblr. We've seen it happen with MySpace. Like these were things that were like pretty much at the top of their game, widely used platforms. And I don't know if anyone like, back in 2004, if anyone was like, MySpace is going to go under when it like at its peak, right? So I'd be interested if Twitter doesn't do so well. Like it's possible that they just fizzle out. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think also like something I think we forget is that these groups are still companies. Like Twitter is still a company that has lots of employees. And if for some reason, if the employees don't feel like the work is worth it anymore, they could all leave. And I think like that could be something that breaks Twitter that is like less obvious, right? Like if so many people just leave the company and they're not like getting the right people in there or whatever, like the whole platform could shift because of that, or it just could die because of that. Just no one's like willing to work and like do that. That would be really wild.
The fall of Twitter, that would be wild. Or I wonder if maybe sort of in this effort of free speech, where he sort of seems to want everyone to be able to express themselves, I wonder if it'll actually drive certain groups away, and then it'll be taken over by other groups and become more of like a niche platform rather than sort of the town hall for everyone. We'll have to.
I think it's also like people have pointed out that Elon like says all this stuff about free speech, but then he like routinely blocks people on Twitter or like reports what they say. And I think so maybe that's like part of that is like, okay, so he does believe in some like sort of features to, stem to like close down conversations or interactions. But like, I don't know. It's just like this constant back and forth. It's like, what does it mean? What does it mean? You have to tell us what it means. You can't just say free speech.
Right. Yeah. Fearless Warrior asking, will he reactivate Trump's account? I actually saw something today that we don't know what will happen with that, but Trump said he won't be coming back regardless of who's in charge of Twitter. So if you want to keep updated with him, you're gonna have to go to Truth Social. I've never been on that. I don't have much to say.
I don't even
on
know
that,
if it's
but...
like, I don't know if it's live yet. Like, it sounds like they're still building it. We'll see.
I don't know, but
who knows?
Yeah, will be interesting to see all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. Do you think that this is going to take Twitter to new heights? Do you think this is going to make Twitter even more successful than it already is? Or do you think this could be the straw that breaks the camel's back? And do you think we will, in 5 years, be wondering what the heck happened to Twitter? Let us know in the comments below.
Wow.
Grace, this has been a lovely, lovely episode.
Yes.
Thank you for joining me today.
Combo. Thank you. This was awesome. And thank you for everyone for tuning in, putting your thoughts and questions in chat. It's always great to interact with everyone else's opinions too. So yeah, I guess we'll see y'all next week.
Yep.
Have
we
a
do
great
the show
rest
every
of your
week.
Weekend, everyone.
See you guys next week. Thanks for chatting. Bye, guys.
Bye.